Is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation, and more recently, the producer of the Show Her the Money movie. And we are so excited today to be talking about a very important topic. It's about DAFs, also known as donor advisory funds, and how this is a new way for philanthropists to invest in social impact in a way that they hadn't been able to in the past. So super excited to have on two amazing guests today. I have on Rebecca Hart of Hart Partners, who used her DAF to invest in our movie, Show Her the Money. So she's an associate producer with us. And also I have on the Chief Impact Investment Officer of Abundance Capital, Margaret Gifford, who's going to talk about what is a DAF, how do we use it to invest in social impact entities like our film or other types of companies. And very excited to talk about that today, ladies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Excited to be here.
Thank you. And, I know you both, Rebecca, you've been in business for many years with Hart Partners, but more recently been focused on being a philanthropist and investor. Margaret, you founded many companies and worked in with everything from startups to Fortune 100 companies in Silicon Valley, and now you're helping people to do this social impact investing with their DAFs. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what is a donor advisory fund and what has changed in recent years to allow people to use it, not just for charities, but for entities like our film or for-profit companies. It's very interesting how this has transpired, and I think people are really interested in learning about it. So let's talk about what the donor advisory fund is and how it can be used in this capacity.
Fantastic. So I have been basically specializing in deploying catalytic capital for pretty much my whole career. So, and I never knew about a DAF until a couple of years ago. I was working with a group in Boston, and this one of the folks we were working with said, "Oh, well, you need to get a hold of DAF because if you need more money, they can take risks that nobody else can take when you're trying to do, some of these sort of slower growth, not meeting quite the exact venture capital model of, 10x more or more 5-year return kind of goal." And at the time, I kind of filed that away, but didn't think much about it. And then heard about this when I met my current co-founder, a guy named Mike Gatchell. He had spent years in philanthropy, raising money for higher ed. And he knew a lot about all of the different philanthropic vehicles there are out there to help people who have had some financial success or maybe inherited generational wealth and wanted to, do good in ways that were very specific versus say just, giving it away and not seeing it come back again in a traditional way. So he told me at that time, he said, "I'm going to found this company called," and it's a nonprofit, we're a non-501c3, called Abundance Capital. And it would be a donor advised fund platform specifically for impact investing. And that blew my mind. I was like, how can we do that? Is that legal?
Yeah. That blew my mind too. In fact, when Rebecca reached out to me and said, "Oh, I want to use my DAF to invest for profit," I'm like, "Oh, I don't think you can do that." And then I learned all about this, and that's why I'm having you all on as a resource for people to learn about this, because who knew you could use a donor advisory fund? A lot of family offices, a lot of families and individuals and corporations have donor advisory funds and think that they can only be used for philanthropic charities, but to be able to understand that it could be used for this. Now, Rebecca, you decided to use money from your DAF to invest in our Show Her the Money film, which is an equity position for profit, which means when our film makes a profit, that profit then goes back to your DAF, right? And
Correct.
So what made you decide to tap your DAF for this type of investment?
So it started about 5 or 6 years earlier when I got involved in a group called Next Wave, which was a learn by doing venture fund. And I knew I wanted to use my donor advised money for this because I thought, why can't we support entrepreneurs just like 501c3s? I mean, they're doing, in many cases, in these impact investings, they're doing sort of similar work. So,
or sometimes even more important work than the charities.
So why can't we do this? So
yes.
it was a kind of a long, frustrating, trying to figure out how, can I do this? And one day on a Next Wave call where, we had people pitch just like a traditional venture capital pitch session, somebody said in the Q&A, I'm going to use my DAF to invest in this. And I was like, wait, that's what I'm trying to do. How do you do that? And so that started my journey. I learned that. So I originally wanted to use funds that lived at a community foundation. The community foundation, for a variety of reasons, did not want to do that. And so I found out that there are companies like Abundance, and I've worked with several over a 5-year period that can make these kinds of investments. So I was thrilled to find an organization that could do it. So then, over the course of about 5 years, so the Angel Capital Association recommends at least 22 investments to, try and increase your odds of success. So at the end of last year, I reached my personal goal of 22, actually exceeded it, closer to 25, including the movie. And that's how I got to know people who were involved in the movie. And then when I found out that they were going to be associate producers in the movie, same sort of thing. I was like, wait, I want to do that. That's amazing. And the kind of work that I want to support. So I was very excited to be a part of it. I've learned so much. I've met so many great people. And then also I've been so excited to meet Abundance. They, like I said, I've worked with several providers, and Abundance has the great combination of flexibility, reasonableness, but ability to do what you want, adherence to impact principles. They make sure that all the investments meet SDG goals, and they sort of handle the paperwork and all that, which is extremely valuable.
So I do have a question.
And most of all, they're just great to work with.
I love that.
We love Rebecca.
And I do have a question because I want people to be clear that, those that have donor advisory funds understand that what we're talking about here today is that your donor advisory money, your DAF money, doesn't have to just be used for charity. It can also be used for social impact investing into entrepreneurs that have for-profit companies, and any equity or profit you would get from that would go directly back into your donor advisory fund. So you're making an impact, but in a different way, in like a product that's a game-changing product or service that will maybe impact women's health or the environment, things of that nature that perhaps putting into a charity might not accomplish. And once it goes into the charity, you never see it again. But when you put it into this type of an investment, you could actually get a return to help build your DAF rather than just, write it down.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Is that a good explanation, Margaret?
Yeah, I think it's important and I say this only because we always have to end up starting with the building blocks. And I can imagine that some of the listeners right now are like, I don't know about that. So it's the way it just works technically, and not all DAFs will do this. So you might have it at a very large investment bank, a Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, and they are like, no, I don't do this. It's too much work, doesn't earn the fees, whatever. Other entities, there are a couple large ones. We're one of the smaller, very targeted ones. They basically, you are making, when you open a DAF, you're making a charitable contribution to that donor advised fund platform. So we are a 501c3. You make a charitable, contribution to open your fund. The fund then can be named, the Margaret Gifford Fund, Family Fund at Abundance. And then once it's there, you can direct where that money goes. We allow direct investing. Many places don't allow that. And only way that it works for sure, we approve it, is if it is advancing our approved IRF charitable mission, which is to use donor advised funds to, build sustainable, equitable communities. And the way we do that is through measuring against the Sustainable Development Goals. So, it could be a machining company that is specifically doing something that, making a very specific type of, health device. They're going to meet one of those goals. We can do that investment. And we just have to track that when the money comes back in, it goes into the donor advice fund and it never comes back into anyone's pocket.
And Rebecca, I think I recall that you had your monies with a donor advisory fund that did not do this, and you took some of your funds and put that over into Abundance Capital, which is a DAF that does allow it. Am I right about that?
Correct. Well, at a community foundation, which I'm sure many of your listeners have donor advised funds at community foundations. And, some community foundations are more open to this than others. Ours was not. And so I, in time, learned that you can transfer that money somewhere else. You can't get it back to yourself, but you can transfer it to someone who will do what you want them to do.
And you wanted to do this because you wanted to get behind some female entrepreneurs. Like, you thought they were brilliant, that they had innovative ideas that needed to be created. And it was your way of being able to use that donor advisory fund to elevate these women's innovations. And
correct.
Can you tell us about some of them that you decided to invest in?
How much time do you have? I mean, there's
just a couple of the highlights.
I have, from healthcare to food products to mental health to, people just doing amazing, amazing work in the world. And, it's how I decide is I ask myself, would I make a grant to support this work? And if I would make a grant to support the work, then I think it's a worthy use of these funds. And I also learned, I did a fellowship, an impact investing fellowship with the Impact Finance Center. And I learned through that about the concept of the negative 100% for grant making. So there's always a role for philanthropy. And, we certainly need that in the world. But, we also need to evolve and we need to do things in different ways. And so the concept of the negative 100% return, not only is it not a 0% return because you're never going to get the money back, but you can never, because it doesn't recycle, you can never grant it out to anybody else.
So you're talking about if you did a traditional charity donation,
yes,
it's never coming back. But what you liked about this method is you're not only investing in women entrepreneurs with game-changing ideas, but you also have an opportunity to make a profit that goes back into just take money from your community fund and just move some of it over to Abundance Capital so that you could invest in these social impact for-profit companies.
Right. So the point is, don't take no for an answer. Keep asking. Yeah. And if they won't do what you want them to do, then find somebody who can.
I love that. I love the work you're both doing. Thank you so much for sharing this story and this invaluable information. Are you both on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Okay.
Connect up.
So you can find Margaret Gifford from Abundance Capital and also Rebecca Hart, Hart, in case you're just tuning in, listening, from Hart Partners. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Of course, you can find me, Catherine Gray, also on LinkedIn, SheAngelInvestors.com. And we also are on social media with She Angel Investors, as well as our movie, Show Her the Money. And we do want to mention, Rebecca and I both, that ShowHerTheMoneyMovie.com will tell you where and when you can see our movie that is about how we can impact the underfunding of women in venture capital, how we can all be catalysts to helping change that, making it a really great investment diversity into our portfolios, either through our DAF or through our regular investing platforms. So thank you both so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make it a great day. And remember to invest